So we're going to be opening up a database file, and then we're going to create some relationships among the tables. And after we do that, we're going to create some queries. And queries are one of the most powerful features in a database because they allow you to extract information based on criteria. So we're going to go ahead and open up the Access Level 1 Chapter 3 folder. And we're going to be starting with dearborn.accdb. So we're going to double click and open that in Access. We're going to go ahead and enable our content. And we're going to go directly to Database Tools and Relationships. We're going to click on Show Table. And we're going to go ahead and add our tables. And I'm just double clicking to add them. And then I'll close that window. And they would like a one-to-many relationship based on client ID. And this is going to be between the client table and the sales table. So we need client and sales. And the client table is going to be our one table. So we're going to take client ID from the client table and drag that over to client ID in our sales table. So basically, one client can have many sales. So we're landing right on top. And we're going to turn on our integrity rules, double check to make sure it says one to many for the relationship type. And you also should double check your tables in the fields that you're connecting to make sure they are correct. And we're going to go ahead and click on Create. The next relationship is also, this next one is going to be a one-to-one based on rep ID. And we are going to be relating the representative table to the benefits table. So let me move benefits over here. And this is one-to-one because we're going to connect based on rep ID, and that is the primary key in both tables. That creates a one-to-one relationship. So we're just going to left drag from rep over to benefits, landing right on rep ID. You can see that it is one-to-one. And we'll go ahead and turn on all of the integrity rules and click Create. This third relationship is a one-to-many. We will be using the rep ID field in the representative table. That will be our one table. And we're going to connect that to the clients table. So let me move clients over here. Get quotas out of the way. So we're going to start with rep ID and representatives and drag that over to clients. It's going to land right on rep ID. So one rep can have many clients. Turning on the integrity rules, and we're going to click Create. And then our final relationship is a one-to-many. And we are going to be connecting tables using quota ID. The quotas table is going to be the one table. And the representatives table is going to be our many table. So let me just pull that over here. So we're going to be connecting based on quota ID. This is our one table, so we're going to left drag over to quota ID and representatives. And it's a one-to-many. We're going to turn on all of our rules and click Create. And at this point, the relationships are done. So we are going to save them. And you don't actually have to print out the relationship report. but we are going to take a look at it. Okay, so it's kind of showing it here. And if you were going to print that out, you would want to switch to landscape because that would give you more room horizontally. Okay, but we are not actually going to print it out, so we're going to go ahead and close out of there. And we will close out of the report tab as well. And no, you don't have to save that. Now, at this point, we are ready for our queries. So I'm going to go back to the relationship design and close out of there. And to create these queries, we are going to use the query design grid, which to me is actually the best way to create them. So we're going to go into create and we're going to select query design. And the first thing we have to do is add our table right above this little grid area. And this grid area is called the QBE grid. And that's basically where the fields that we want to extract are going to be placed. So for this very first one, they want us to add the client table. So we're going to double click on clients. And then we're going to go ahead and close out of show table. Now, usually when I'm in here, I do kind of resize the tables just so I can see all of the fields, because it just makes it a little bit easier to add them to the grid. So the fields that they would like us to add, the first one is client. Now there's several different ways you can add fields. You can point to the table and double click. You can point to the table and you can left drag. Or you can click on this little arrow down here and choose the field from the drop-down list. Okay, and for this first one, they do want you to pick it from the drop-down list. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll click where the field should go. That gives us the arrow. And we'll click the arrow and choose street address. And for the next one, we'll click. That gives us the arrow. Click the arrow, choose city. For the next one, same procedure, choosing state. And then we're going to come over to the next one, same procedure, and choosing zip code. So at this point, we have the fields that we want to see when we run the query. Now, we don't want all of the records to display. We're only interested in seeing clients that live in Indianapolis. So in our city column, you will see that there is a row labeled criteria. So we are going to click right on that criteria row in our city field column, and we're going to key in Indianapolis. Okay, so you're going to type that in and press enter. And when you press enter, it's going to put double quotes around it because it is text. And basically, when we run this query, we are saying that if the city is equal to Indianapolis, display the record. So it's very important in these queries that you have no typos in your criteria, because if there's typos in the criteria, when you run your query, you will have nothing. You'll have no results. So we're going to go ahead and hit run. And you can kind of double check to make sure it worked by looking in the city column. All you should be able to see is Indianapolis because that was our criteria. Now, if you don't see anything there, you need to click on the view button, come back over here and look at how you spelled Indianapolis, because chances are there is a typo. Okay, either there's a typo in how you spelled Indianapolis, or you have it under the wrong field. If you put Indianapolis under client or under street address, it's going to find nothing because there is no street address equal to Indianapolis. So you have to type the criteria correctly, and you have to put it below the correct field. So once you get this working, we are going to save the query, and we are going to call it Clients Indianapolis Query. And we're going to click OK. And what you're going to notice over in the navigation pane is that now we have a query section, and it lists our query right there. Now, we don't need to worry about printing the results of this query. What we're going to do is kind of right-click on the tab and close it. And we're going to create another query. So we're going to go to Create, and we're going to go to Query Design. And for this query, we're going to add the representatives table. And let me pull this up. And we're going to close this. And from this table, we need to add a couple fields. And instead of using the arrow, we're going to use a little different technique of getting them into the grid area. Okay, and this is the technique I normally use. Up in your table, any field that you want to put in the grid, you simply double click on. So we're going to double click on rep name, and we're going to double click on quota ID. Okay, so what you should have is rep name and quota ID. Now, if you double clicked and you got the wrong field, you can simply fix it by clicking the arrow and choosing the right field. Okay, but those are the two fields that we want. And as far as the criteria goes, we only want to see records that have a quota ID greater than 2. So on the criteria row, below quota ID, we're going to key in a greater than sign and the number 2. And we're going to press enter. Okay, so if it's greater than 2, then we will see the record. So we're going to go ahead and run. Okay, and you should notice in quota ID, we only see numbers that are greater than 2. And we're going to save our query. And we're going to call it quota ID greater than 2 query. And then we're going to go ahead and close this one. Now for the next query, they want us to display sales greater than 99,999. So we're going to go into Create and Query Design. And we're going to add our sales table. And then what we need to add to the grid is client ID. And sales. And down here in the criteria row, when you are entering criteria with numbers, you cannot put commas or dollar signs in them. So it's just the plain number. So we've got 900 or 99,000. So we got 99, 999. So we got 5 nines. Okay, so that is what you need to put in the criteria row. Now you'll notice it didn't put double quotes around this, and that is because sales is a numeric field. Numeric fields do not have double quotes around the numbers. Only text fields do. Okay, so this is a number field, so you do not want double quotes around those numbers. You just enter them, type them in, press enter. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and run this. Okay, and should see all numbers greater than 99,999. So at this point, we're going to save. And in the name itself, we can put $signs or whatever we want. Okay, and we'll click OK. You just can't put the dollars and the commas or anything like that in the criteria. So we'll go ahead and close. And we're going to do another one. And for this fourth one, we want representatives with a phone number that begin with 765 area code. So we're going to, again, go to Create and Design. And we said we wanted representatives, so we're going to add our representative table. And we're going to display the rep name. And we need to add the telephone because that's the field that's going to have criteria on it. And those are the only two fields we're going to have in our grid. Now, in our criteria row, we only want the phone numbers beginning with 765. Okay, and if you're not sure of how the phone number was typed in, you can actually run it at this point and take a look. So we have a left parentheses 765. So let's go back over here. So for the criteria, we need to include that left parenthesis, 765. And then for the rest of the number, it does not matter what it is. So we are going to enter an asterisk, and that is going to replace all of the characters that follow 765. The asterisk is a wildcard character, and it replaces multiple characters. So go ahead, put the double quotes in, press enter. You will notice that it puts the word like in, and that is fine. You don't have to type the like. Just make sure you put the double quotes in. And then go ahead and click on Run. And we will save this and call it reps with 765 area code query.